Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to my Girl with a Bible podcast. Today, we will be reading Job chapters 1 through 6. We are reading the Bible in chronological order, and if we're reading it in that way, we have to skip to Job just to have everything be cohesive. So, if you're ready, bring out your highlighters, your books, your pens, and your Bibles, and let's get started. Okay, so before we start, I'm going to show you guys my color code again. And I'm just going to scroll through so you guys can see it. Just in case you all want to follow me. How I'm color coding, or you choose your own colors. Yeah. So yeah, this is the color code. Now let's start. There was a man in the country of Uz named Job. He was a man of complete integrity, who feared God and turned away from evil. He had 7 sons, 3 daughters. His estate included 7,000 sheep and goats, 3,000 camels, 500 yoke of oxen, 500 female donkeys, and a very large number of servants. Job was the greatest man among all the people of the East. His sons used to take turns having banquets at their homes. They would send an invitation to their 3 sisters to eat and drink with them. Whenever a round of banqueting was over, Job would send for his children and purify them, rising early in the morning to offer burnt offerings for all of them. For Job thought, perhaps my children have sinned, having cursed God in their hearts. This was Job's regular practice. One day, the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan also came with them. The Lord asked Satan, "Where have you come from?" "From roaming through the earth," Satan answered, "and walking around it." Then the Lord said to Satan, "Have you considered my servant Job? No one else on the earth is like him, a man of perfect integrity, who fears God and turns away from evil." Satan answered the Lord, "Does Job fear God for nothing? Haven't you placed a hinge around him, his household, everything he owns? You have blessed the work of his hands, and his possessions has increased in the land. But stretch out your hand and strike everything he owns. He will surely curse you to your face." "Very well," the Lord told Satan. "Everything he owns is in your power. However, do not lay a hand on Job himself." One day, Job's sons and daughters were eating and drinking wine in their oldest brother's house. A messenger came to Job and reported, "While the oxen were plowing and donkeys grazing nearby, the Sabeans swooped down and took them away. They struck down the servants with swords, and I alone escaped to tell you." He was still speaking with another servant when another servant came and reported, "God's fire fell from heaven. It burned the sheep and the servants and devoured them, and I alone have escaped to tell you." That messenger was still speaking with when yet another came and reported, "The Chaldeans formed 3 bands, made raid on the camels, and took them away. They struck down the servants with the sword, and I alone have escaped to tell you." He was still speaking when another messenger came and reported, "Your sons and daughters were eating and drinking wine in the oldest brother's 4 corners of the house. It collapsed on the young people, so that they died, and I alone have escaped to tell you." Then Job stood up, tore his robe, and shaved his head. He fell to the ground and worshipped, saying, Naked I come from my womb, my mother's womb, and naked I will leave this life. The Lord gives, and the Lord takes away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Throughout all this, Job did not sin or blame God for anything. All right. Okay, so let's get into all of the annotations. So first thing I wrote up here is a question. Is faith rooted in blessings or genuine relationship with God? And I think this whole passage answers that question. So that's basically a question I left up to you guys. So first thing that he highlights is that Job is a man of integrity who feared God and turned away from evil. So this is just showing us that he practices what God preaches. He fears God. He does not engage in evil, and he's an honest man, which is good. And then it also says that he is devoted to God. You know, he gives offerings for his kids who he said may have sinned or cursed gods in their hearts. So this shows how connected Job is spiritually to God. And not only does he think of himself, he cleanses his family. This shows his selflessness, further developing his character as, you know, a good man of God. He depends on God, you know, heavily. And I said that this could be highlighted because we should pray for those around us who have also sinned. Those people that we love, we should pray for them. And Job did this on a regular day, you know. Okay, next we see how Satan comes in. Yeah, so Satan basically roams the earth looking for people to deceive about God. That's what we know about Satan. He's a wanderer. And also right here, he basically wants to test Job. Like he's saying, you believe that, he's basically implying that Job only serves God for the blessings that he receives. He doesn't serve it in an act of faith. He only serves God because he has all these blessings. He has all the oxen, all the donkeys, all the money, you know, a big family, you know, a lot of stuff. And he doesn't think that Job will appreciate God if he didn't have it, basically. And I just said that also this shows that my faith will be tested by unseen forces. We can't, you know, see these things or these conversations happening, but they are happening, obviously. So my faith will be tested by unseen forces. If you are faithful and you walk with God, your faith will be tested. Oh, I don't know why I moved this over like this. Sorry. Yeah, your faith will be tested in that way. So this is something to really look at. You know, you have to keep yourself prayed up and keep yourself protected, because even if you do everything right, you know, forces are still looking to deceive you about God, you know. And I also wrote, how would I still have faith? Oh, would I still have faith if everything I had was taken away from me? What else did I write? And this is obviously saying that God does care about Job himself, because he knows that he's a loyal follower when he says, everything he owns is in your power. However, do not lay a hand on him. Because God knows Job is loyal. You know, he's teaching him a lesson, regardless of how deep his faith is. This is a lesson that God is teaching him. What else? Yeah, I highlighted when it said that his family died, and then I also put bad things will happen in this world. Through it all, will I still worship through them, or will I lose my faith because of it? And it just shows like that's devastating for his family to die. Like that's crazy. So what did I highlight up here when I was reading? I highlighted this whole basically prayer he said to God. It was really beautiful. He said, "Naked I come from my mother's womb, and naked I will leave this life. The Lord gives, and the Lord takes away. Blessed be the name of the Lord." So Job is still showing how, immense his faith is, because he just, explains he can't blame or sin against God, even when everything is going wrong. Like his children were killed, everything he loved, basically he lost, and instead he praises him. He still calls him blessed, and he still knows the Lord's name. And I think that's beautiful that he's still praising God. It really shows that he was a good person, good follower of God. And I also, translated this: I came into this world with nothing, so I will leave with nothing. And it's important to show faith in suffering. There's beauty in suffering as well. Okay, now for our first mirror moment of the video. So how does Job's integrity and devotion to God, even in prosperity, challenge me to remain faithful in all circumstances? Reflect on how you prioritize your relationship with God when things are going well. Are you as devoted as Job was? What can you learn from Job's response? The Lord gives and the Lord takes away. Blessed be the name of the Lord in times of personal loss. So here's our activity. You should get a small stone, pebble, or any object that you can keep in your pocket. Reflect on Job's response to his suffering. And then write or think of one thing that you are grateful for, even in difficult seasons of your life, and keep the stone with you for about a week to remind you to bless God's name regardless of your circumstances. Each time you feel overwhelmed or discouraged, hold the stone. Okay, now to the next passage. One day the sons of God came again to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan also came with them to present himself before the Lord. The Lord asked Satan, "Where have you come from?" "From roaming through the earth," Satan answered him, "and walking around it." Then the Lord said to Satan, "Have you considered the servant Job? No one else on earth is like him, a man of perfect integrity who fears God and turns away from evil. He still retains his integrity, even though you incited me against him, to destroy him for no good reason." "Skin for skin," Satan answered to God. "A man will give up everything his own in exchange for his life. He owns in exchange for his life. Stretch out your hand and strike his flesh and bones. He will surely curse you to your face." "Very well," the Lord told Satan. "He is in your power. Only spare his life, the soles of his feet to the top of his head." Then Job took a piece of broken pottery and scraped himself while he sat among the ashes. His wife said to him, "Are you still holding on to your integrity? Curse God and die. Curse God and die. You speak as a foolish woman speaks," he told her. "Should we accept only good from God and not adversity?" Throughout all this, Job did not sin in what he said. Now, when Job's three friends, sorry for the pronunciation, Eliphaz and Temanate, Bildad and Shuit, and Zophar the Nemathite, heard all of this adversity had happened to him. Each of them came from his home. They met together to go and sympathize with him and comfort him. When they looked from a distance, they could barely recognize him. They wept aloud. Each man tore his robe and threw dust into the air onto his head. Then they sat on the ground with him 7 days and nights, but no one spoke a word to him because they saw that his suffering was very intense. Okay, notes for over here. God told Satan he still retains his integrity even when you've incited me against him to destroy him for no good reason. I highlighted this because I said being a soldier of God isn't easy. You know, losses will be had, and Job's faithfulness is highlighted even in the times where everything is taken from him and he is like in great grief. He still serves God. And I said this was a nice quote because God still believes in him, you know, and he recognizes that faith and that integrity that he keeps, that he doesn't sin against him even when things are going bad. And then I highlighted, you speak as a foolish woman speaks, he told her. Should we accept only good from God in our adversity? Throughout all this, Job did not sin in what he said. So, this is good. You know, when people speak against God, you rebuke that immediately. So that's what Job did. He rebuked her words. And I also said, how can we appreciate good if we never experience bad? This purpose comes from your devotion to God, not from the things or blessings he has given you. So basically just saying, you know, storms, to appreciate the good times, storms have to come. You know, we aren't walking with God for the blessings that we might get. We're walking with him because we love him and we want to serve him. So everything that he gives you can be taken away in an instant, but if you still have a strong relationship with him, you are wealthy. And I also saw how his friends did not speak to him, did not lecture him, did not, you know, say anything to him. I said sometimes when your friend is feeling pain, the best thing you could say is nothing and just sit with them in the pain. You know, knowing that they're not alone. Okay. Back to it. After this, Job began to speak and cursed the day he was born. He said, "May the day I was born perish, in the night that I said, in the night that said, a boy is conceived. If only that day had turned to darkness. May God above not care about it. Or light shine on it. May darkness and gloom reclaim it, and the clouds settle over it. May what darkens the day terrify it, if only darkness had taken that night away. May it not appear among the days of the year, or listed in the calendar. Yes, may the night be barren, may no joyful shout be heard in it. Let those who curse days condemn it, those who are ready to rouse Leviathan. May its morning stars grow dark. May it wait for the daylight, but have none. May it not see the breaking of dawn. For that night did not shut the doors of my mother's womb, and hide the sorrow from my eyes. Why was I not stillborn? Why didn't I die as I came from the womb? Why did the knees receive me? Why were there breasts for me to nurse? Now I have certainly been lying down in peace I would have been certainly lying down in peace. I would be asleep. Then I would have been at rest with the kings and counselors of the earth, who were built the ruined cities for themselves, or with the princes who had gold, who filled their houses with silver. Or why was I not hidden like a miscarried child, like infants who never see daylight? There the wicked cease to be troubled, to make trouble, and there the weary find rest. The captives are completely at rest. They do not hear the taskmaster's voice. Both small and great are there, and the slave is set free from his master. Why is life given to one burdened with grief? Why is light given to one burdened with grief, and life to those whose existence is bitter? Who wait for death, but it does not come, and search for it more than for hidden treasure, who are filled with much joy, and are glad when they reach the grave. Why is life given to man whose path is hidden, whom God has hedged in? I sigh when food is put before me, and my groans pour out like water. For the thing I feared has taken over me, and what I dread has happened to me. I cannot relax or be calm. I have no rest, for the turmoil has come. Back to over here. So we see that Job is very depressed. It's leading him to hopelessness, and he wants to die. His family, everything that he prayed for is gone. And I highlighted this point over here. Why was I not stillborn? Why didn't I die when I came from the womb? Why did the knees receive me? Why were there breasts for me to nurse? Now I would certainly be lying down in peace. I would be asleep. Then I would be at rest. Okay. So Job is questioning, why wasn't I dead at birth? He wishes that he died so that he didn't feel the pain that he's feeling now. He's questioning, his purpose in the world. Why was he born, or even care for if this is what he would have to go through? He would rather find peace in death than live with all this pain that he's enduring right now. So he is in a deep state of depression. He is not seeing, the light. And I also fixed this right here. Well, not fixed it, but I translated it a little bit so I can understand it. A lot of time in the Bible, light means, life. So when he says, why is the life given to the burden, and light given to the burden, and life to those whose existence is bitter. So I'm saying here it's just Job doesn't reject God, but he's more searching for understanding, a question, what's the purpose of God giving life to people whose life is filled with grief and sadness? He's feeling like life is more of a burden than a gift at this point, now that everything has gone wrong. Okay. And I also, for this part, for the thing I feared has taken over me, and what I dreaded has happened to me. I cannot relax or be calm. I have no rest for turmoil that has come. And just a point over here. How could someone whose worst fears have come true find peace moving forward? How can, if it were to happen to me, how can I go on if I'm so hurt? So that's just a question that I had for that part, how, if all is lost, how can I move forward? Okay, so now we're back with our mirror moments, and we're going to get into our first reflection question. How can I better support those who are suffering like Job's friends did by sitting with him in silence, considering how empathy and presence can be more powerful than offering advice or solutions? How do Job's honest expressions of grief and despair teach me about bringing my raw emotions to God in prayer? Reflect on the times you may have hidden your pain instead of presenting them openly to God. Next, we're going to get into our activity. So, here's what you need: a quiet space and your journal or piece of paper. So, you're going to reflect on a situation in your life that has caused like deep sadness or frustration. Write an honest prayer to God, expressing your emotions as Job did, holding back nothing. In your prayer, by asking God for strength and hope, remembering his promises of restoration and faithfulness. Then Eliphaz in Temanite replied, should anyone try to speak with you when you are exhausted? Yet who can keep from speaking? Indeed, you have instructed many and have strengthened weak hands. Your words have steadied the one who is stumbling, embraced the knees that were buckling. But now that this has happened to you, you have become exhausted. It strikes you, and you are dismayed. Is it your pity, your confidence in the integrity of your life, your hope? Consider, who has perished when he was innocent? Where have the honest been destroyed? In my experience, those who plow injustice and those who sow trouble reap the same. They perish at a single blast from God and come to an end by the breath of his nostrils. The lion may roar and the fierce lion growl, but the teeth of the young lions are broken. The strong lion dies if it catches no prey, and the cubs of a lioness are scattered. A word was brought to me in secret. My ears caught a whisper of it, among unsettling thoughts from visions in the night. When deep sleep comes over men, fear and trembling came over me. It made all my bones shake. I felt a draft on my face, and the hair on my body stood up. A figure stood there, but I could not recognize its appearance. A form loomed before my eyes. I heard a whisper voice. Can a mortal be righteous before God? Can a man be more pure than his maker? If God puts no trust in his servants, and he charges his angels with foolishness, how much more those who dwell in clay houses, whose foundation is in dust, who are crushed by a moth. They are smashed to pieces from dawn to dusk. They perish forever, while no one notices. Are their tents cords not pulled up? They die without wisdom. So in this, his friends are basically implying that he's being a hypocrite, saying that he encouraged a lot of people, but when something happens to him, he's overwhelmed and devastated. Basically saying that, it's hypocritical of you because you spoke, encouragement and wisdom to everyone, who has suffered. And when it happens to you, it's looking different. Also highlighted when he said, who has perished when he was innocent? Where have the honest been destroyed? And I just said that he's basically assuming that suffering is a consequence of wrongdoings, which is not always true. Good people die every day, So, and Job was a good man, so I don't really agree with that statement that he said. And he also says, can a mortal be righteous before God? He's just trying to show how fragile we are before God, you know, how powerful he is compared to us. Next page. Call out. Will anyone answer? Which of the holy ones will you turn to? For anger kills a fool, and jealously slays gullible. I have seen a fool taken root, but I immediately pronounce a curse on his home. His children are far from safety. They are cursed at the city gate, with no one to rescue them. The hungry consume his harvest, even taking it out of the thorns. The thirsty pant for his children's wealth, for distress does not grow out of soil, and trouble does not sprout from the ground. But humans are born for trouble, as surely as sparks fly upward. However, if I were you, I would appeal to God and would present my case to him. He does great and unsearchable things, wonders without number. He gives rain to the earth and sends water to the fields. He sets lowly on the high, and mourners are lifted to safety. He frustrates the schemes of the crafty, so that they achieve no success. He traps the wise in their craftiness, so that the plans of deceptive are quickly brought to an end. They encounter darkness by day, and they grope at noon, as if it were night. He saves the needy from their sharp words and from the clutches of the powerful. So the poor have hope, and injustice shuts its mouth. See how happy is the person whom God corrects. So do not reject the discipline of the Almighty. He wounds, but also bandages. He strikes, but his hands also heal. He will rescue you from 6 Shalamites. No harm will touch you in sudden. In famine, he will redeem you from death. And in battle, from the power of the sword, you will be safe from the slander, and not fear destruction when it comes. You will laugh at the destruction in hunger, and not fear the land's wild creatures. For you will have a covenant with the stones of the field, and the wild animals will be at peace with you. You will know that your tent is secure, and nothing will be missing when you inspect your home. You will also know that your offspring will be many, your descendants like the grass of the earth, and you will approach the grave in full vigor, as a stack of sheaves is gathered in the season. We have investigated this, and it's true. Here, understand it for yourself. Yeah, that's better. If only my grief could be weighed, and my devastation placed with it on the scales, for then I will outweigh the sand of the seas. This is why my words are rash. Surely the arrows of Almighty have pierced me. My spirit drinks their poison. God's terrors are arrayed against me. Does a wild donkey bray over fresh grass, or an ox low over in the fodder? Is bland food eaten without salt? Is there favor in the egg white? I refuse to touch them. They are like contaminated food. If only my request would be granted, and God would provide what I hope for, and he would decide to crush me, to unleash his power to cut me off, it would still bring me comfort. would leap for joy in unrelenting pain, and I would have not denied the words of the Holy One. What strength do I have that I should continue to hope? What is my future? That I should be patient? Is my strength that of stone, or my flesh made of bronze? Since I cannot help myself, the hope for success has been banished from me. As despairing man should receive loyalty for his friends, even if he abandons the fear of the Almighty, my brothers are as treacherous as seasonal streams that overflow and become darkened because of ice. The snow melts into them, and the woodies evaporate in warm weather. They disappear from their channels in hot weather. Caravans turn away from their routes, go up into the deserts, and perish. The caravans of Tema took for these streams. The traveling merchants of Sheba hope for them. They are ashamed because they have been confident of finding water. When they arrive there, they are disappointed. So this is what you have now become to me. When you see something dreadful, you are afraid. Have I ever said, give me something, or pay a bribe for me for your wealth, or deliver me from the enemy's hand, or redeem me from the hand of ruthless? Teach me, I will be silent. Help me understand what I did wrong, how powerful honest words can be. But what does your rebuke prove? Do you think that you have disproved my words, or that despairing man's words are mere wind? No doubt you would cast lots for a fatherless child and negotiate a price to sell your friend. But now, please look at me. I will not lie to your face. Reconsider. Don't be unjust. Reconsider. My righteous is still the issue. Is there injustice on my tongue, or may my palate not taste disaster? Okay, so I did not highlight anything on 6 because I want you guys to do the mindful moments to, really start to understand like how you feel about it, because I think this is a very, faceted chapter. So I think that's basically how I understood it to what it meant to me. So yeah. But for number 5, chapter 5, number 5, I highlighted this where he says, anger kills fools and jealousy slays the gullible. And I like that because this is true. Anger and jealousy are for fools, and people with those attributes make it easier for things to attack and destroy them, So the same way he said he pronounces curse over his homes, and children's are far from safety. Also, he explains how humans are born for trouble, and I agree with that. Trouble will find us because we've sinned, and that's one thing that we can know for certain. But he says, despite all this, you should appeal to God, you should pray to God. And this is just showing that you should seek God's power, because he does perform miracles. If you ask, you could receive. Also, he says that how God defends the needy and the weak, and he gives hope to the hopeless and oppressed. He's talking about how his friend right now is like feeling really down, but he says if you speak to God, his power will run through you. He helps people like you every day. And he encourages his friend to embrace God's discipline as an act of love, and he says, he hurts, like he disciplines, but he also heals and he bandages. Like, think of everything that he's done for you in your life. So he says, keep that in mind while you're going through this. You were hurt, but God has healed you and will continue healing you in these situations. And another thing, he ensures that if he trusts God, he will get restoration and blessings. So if he keeps his trust in God, he won't be steered wrong, even though everything he knows is changed forever. If he continues to walk in God, he will reap many, many more blessings and restoration. Okay, on to our next mirror moment. The first reflection question is: Job compares his suffering to the weight of the sand of the seas. How can this imagery help articulate my pain to God and others? Consider how metaphors or analogies can help you better communicate your feelings in a healthy way and constructive way. What steps can I take to ensure my words and actions reflect the compassion when I feel deeply hurt like Job? Think about how Job refrains from cursing or and of the seas. And that is the end of our Bible study. I want to thank you all for pain to God and others. Consider how participating today or analogies can help you better communicate your feelings in a healthy way and constructive way.